Hey YouTube, Untamed here. Wanted to make a video formally introducing the 2017 Shelby GT350R that I got. I already know there's a ton of controversy on this given the car that I had before, perhaps the arch rival of this one. And I know a lot of my subscribers, started following me strictly because it was a ZL1. So I appreciate you guys sticking around. I just want to kind of shoot a video and explain to you why I ended up making the switch I did. Just kind of walk you through, I guess, the pros and cons of each of the cars from my opinion. Tell me what you guys think. So, like I said, it's a 2017. It is, and the color is called Avalanche Gray, which was discontinued in 2018. So specifically 2016, 2017. I personally love it. It does look a little bit better in person rather than photos and video, but I absolutely love it. We have the black painted roof, the black side mirrors on it that come standard, as well as the black wing, carbon fiber wing in the rear there. I'll do a quick walk around video of it, just kind of highlighting some of the features. Nothing that you guys have not already seen, I'm sure. I'll just kind of do just a real quick walk around here. Excuse the wind, as always. Has the carbon fiber wheels, which all of you guys are probably aware of. Excuse me, it definitely is dirty. Got the mud flaps on it already, which are a necessity for living in the gravel road here. Show you guys the interior real quick. So this is quote unquote fully loaded, which if you're familiar with the GT350R, you pay a premium to get them pretty much cut down for weight saving. So no back seat, of course. And if for just a quote unquote normal non-upgraded GT350R, you're getting no AC and no stereo. So it's just a plastic cover right there typically, but you pay more to get it all added back in, which is kind of silly, but you kind of need those creature comforts unless you're just straight up tracking it all the time. Now in my opinion, the seats with the GT350 and GT350R, they look a lot better. I mean, they feel great. However, I do think overall the ZL1 is better when it comes to the interior. I think it feels more like a $65,000–$70,000 car in the ZL1. But there is something to be said, like for instance, this is all manual controlled with the bar up front, and the ZL1 was all electric, which is pretty nice. So a lot more creature comforts. You had a sunroof in my ZL1 that I had, but there is something to be said about the bare necessities, if you will. So it makes it a little bit more, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, but I don't know, it does make it feel more, I guess, visceral, a little bit more, I don't know, a little more race ready, if you will. So I love both of them. I think they're great. You got the red stripe up here specific to the R. The red stitching is specific to the R as well. I think normally it is white or gray. And of course, I think this is, with the exception of the R up there, that is the only place in the entire car that actually says GT350R. And of course, the chassis number there. Try to get back out of the wind here. So, I do like the fact that I have two Fords now. I think they do look a little bit better together rather than the Raptor and the ZL1. But like I mentioned in my previous video, I really don't I try not to get too wrapped around the axle for brand loyalty and all that. I really don't. But there is a lot to be said about the GT350R in general. So now to talk about the pros. So the pros of the ZL1, in my opinion, I kind of hinted at a couple. The interior is better overall. It had a back seat, so if you do have a family and you're ever going to try to take them in your sports car, it is possible in the ZL1. Obviously the standard GT350 does have a back seat, but not the R here. I think the front end of the ZL1, again, this is all my opinion, the ZL1 does look more menacing. It does look better in the front end. However, the side and the rear of the Shelby here look better. Again, this is all my opinion though. Another perk of the ZL1, I think it is safe to say it is a better performer all around, right? You got the same suspension, magnetized suspension in both cars. Granted, the ZL1 is a little more front end heavy compared to this, but not by much. But it does feel heavier in the front. I think part of that is because it is, of course, a bigger engine. You got the 6.2 liter supercharged V8 in the Camaro, whereas this is a 5.2 liter flat plane crank. The ZL1 has 650 horsepower, 650 torque, whereas we're looking at 526 horsepower in this. And I guess it's kind of it's a pro and con. Granted, you got the more horsepower in the ZL1. However, it's kind of old technology. Obviously, they're constantly improving it, but you got an old push rod motor in the ZL1. So there is something to be said about the R here, because what they did was they tore apart, and you guys probably heard this before, they tore apart a Ferrari 458 and disassembled the engine, and kind of did a copycat with a larger displacement for this engine here. So that is the flat plane crank. So it allows for definitely a lot more high revving. So you get the 8250 for the max RPM red line, and it sounds glorious when you're eking that direction. I think the most I got it up to so far is I think about maybe 5,500. I'm trying to keep it low-ish while I'm breaking it in still, but it sounds amazing. So we talked about the horsepower. ZL1's probably the better performer overall. Granted, this one might handle a smidge better. ZL1 has a sunroof, this one doesn't. However, the color, I'm kind of indifferent. I really did like the blue, the Riverside blue on the ZL1, but there is something to be said about the exclusivity of the Avalanche Gray here. So I mean, that's obviously totally up to anybody's opinion there. So I love both. The cons of the ZL1, the rear end. So I was not a huge fan of the rear end design, regardless of the the 2017, 2018 rear end taillights versus the 2019, the refresh, if you will. I do think it just kind of looked cheap, and I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of it overall, no matter what they did with it. I think they need a whole refresh of the rear end to make it a little bit more appealing. So I love the rear end of the Shelby here. It looks amazing in my opinion. Now probably the biggest con of the ZL1, and I hinted at it within my comments to some of you guys, is, and if you do some homework on it, GM massively overproduced both Corvettes and Camaros, to include the ZL1. So because of that, the pricing on them is it fluctuates so much depending on where you're at within the United States. Granted, they maintain fair value, but I think just for the longevity of the car and the longevity of the residual value, I just don't, in my opinion, again, I just didn't think it was going to be a smart investment. And let me preface it with, no car is a smart investment. They're all depreciating assets, so you should never buy a car, maybe unless it's a 964, 911 turbo, air-cooled turbo Porsche. But with the exception of maybe a few cars, you should never try to dive into them for investment items, to include these cars. However, I think that the longevity of the ZL1 looked a bit worse than the Shelby here, because it was so overproduced. Some parts of the country, it looked like GM was offering huge incentives, like up to $10,000-$15,000 off of certain cars, to include the ZL1s. Some of them I saw as low as 58 grand, 56 grand for a brand new ZL1, and I've seen a ZL1 1LE for 61,000. Granted, but you have to look nationwide for it. It may not be the case in your specific area. That is absolutely not the case for the GT350R. The GT350, the normal ones, however, you can probably get those for anywhere from 45 to 55, depending on how used it is, if it is used. With the R's, however, they've been holding right around MSRP. And obviously, if you guys have followed this car at all, you know right when it came out, they had a huge premium of anywhere from 10,000 to some people get 5,000 over, but typically it was about $10,000 to $20,000 over MSRP for this car when it came out, because they were so exclusive. Very few of them were produced. I'm not going to try to cite any numbers because I don't know for sure, but I know it is far less than a ZL1. So really, for that reason alone, I'm not rich by any means. I know, I can say that while I'm showing these two cars, but by no means am I wealthy or super rich or anything. Definitely okay. I'm well off, of course, to have these two cars. I'm definitely blessed to have them, but I still want to try to be smart with my money, the money that I do have. So I think this will hold value much better over the next 5-10 years if I keep it that long. And I can sleep easier at night knowing that it's sitting in the garage, not being driven as much. So that is, I guess, the driving reason of it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to it. I love the color. Talked about that. Carbon wheels. This is the first production car, mass production car, quote unquote, that had the carbon fiber wheels, which is really cool in my opinion. Again, not too conducive for the gravel. But anyways, guys, I'm going to wrap up this video. I think it's sort of getting a little bit long. But thank you for watching as always, and let me know what you think. Was it a total flop, or was it all right? And just give me your opinions, guys. Thank you.